We're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you who are on, we're excited to share with some of these tips with you guys today. This is entitled Healthy Holiday Hacks, How to Eat, Feel, and Look Your Best This Holiday Season. Basically, this webinar is through the Karlfeldt Center, and both Laurie and I work at the Karlfeldt Center, and we just really want this to be just a fun, interactive time where we can kind of provide opportunities to share our answers, ask questions. We will be doing most of the questions and answers at the end of the webinar, but we would love to, throughout the webinar, we'll be asking you guys some questions, and we would love to just hear from you to know what your challenges are, and just get an idea of kind of what your needs are as well. So hopefully we can answer most of your questions. So again, thank you for being here tonight. November is National Diabetes Awareness Month. And while, many of us may not actually have full-blown diabetes type 1 or even type 2, a lot of the things that we'll be covering here tonight are just good general rules, good general suggestions for just how to eat healthy on a regular basis. And of course, any of the suggestions that we provide here, we always want you to make sure that you consult your medical provider before making any major changes to your diet or exercise, medication, supplements, all those things. So make sure to keep that in mind. But thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight and for putting your health first. So just a little bit about ourselves before we get going. My name is Natalie Hart. I am the Transformational Nutrition Coach at the Karlfeldt Center. I was born and raised just outside of Seattle on the east side. I'm married with 3 wonderful kids, 6th, 9th, and 11th grades. I got my bachelor's degree in health promotion, which is basically a way of saying wellness and exercise science, kind of, so to speak. I was a former personal trainer and clinical specialist in Medtronic's cardiac rhythm and disease management division. I'm certified in heart math, if any of you have heard of that. I do that at the center and online as well. And heart math helps deal with stress, anxiety, and self-regulation. So just learning really great biofeedback tools and breathing techniques to help manage stress. And as far as my story when it comes to managing weight and health, that's something that I struggled with all 3 of my pregnancies. Just gaining extra weight during those pregnancies, had a really hard time getting the weight off. And then, on top of that, dealing with postpartum depression, chronic fatigue, and other hormone imbalances. So, all this stuff that we speak about, it's all stuff that I know Laurie has a similar story, but things that we've all struggled with ourselves, and hope to give you a little bit of what we've learned in the process to you. I think Laurie's going to introduce herself next.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Laurie Pinkerton. I'm a physician assistant at the Karlfeldt Center, and I am virtual as I live in Eastern Idaho, which is great. I can see people all over Idaho. I was born and raised in Northern Virginia, and then I graduated from the physician assistant program in Drexel University in Philadelphia in 2020. I have experience in primary care, but I've shifted into this more root cause approach to medicine, as that is really where we start to see healing, incorporating alternative and integrative components as well. And so my passion is helping empower people through lifestyle and nutrition, along with these other integrated modalities, because there's so much to it. I struggled with weight growing up, and so I definitely I know what it's like to not feel comfortable in your skin, and that has physical and emotional and psychological impact as well. But on the flip side, I also know what it's like to change my life, and be empowered, and incorporate new habits, but to feel that health that comes along with it. So seeing, when you look at yourself and you love who you see, on all levels, it's just a great feeling. And so that's really what drives me as a human being and a medical provider. My goal is to give hope and share information and resources with our patients so that they can be successful on their journeys. And that's the point. So that's definitely why Natalie and I are here tonight. We've gone through our own struggles and still, and present. But that's what we want to share and give. So.
And we'd love for any of you that are on, go ahead and just type in, if you can, just type in the chat. We'd love to know where you're tuning in from, whether it's what city or state. But we'd love to hear from you in the chat. Just tell us where you're all from. While you're doing that, the objectives of our meeting tonight is, first of all, just talking about challenges that come around the holidays, of course, and some of the unhealthy habits that we pick up on during the holidays. Two, we'll be talking about how our choices affect how we feel and why. So kind of the relationship between insulin and glucose. Then we'll dive into some of those holiday hacks that you can, just some great little tips that you can do so you can kind of not derail from your diet or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish with your metabolic health. And then we've got just some more suggestions on how we can help as providers for the Karlfeldt Center, what we offer. And then because we do offer not just things for people locally, but Laurie and I do a lot of visits virtually. So we would love to be able to share how we can help you in those areas. And then some of the holiday specials that we have coming up. We've got some great Black Friday holiday specials for people who are local, and a few that maybe for people who aren't. And then we'll get to you guys and answer all your questions. We'd love to hear what your struggles are and challenges. And if you have any questions about any of the slides, just write those down. There's just take some notes as you go, and we'll hopefully be able to get to those at the end. So yeah, it looks like we've got people on from Foster City, California, Reston, Virginia, Arlington, Nampa, Southern California. So this is great. It's great to have you guys here. Okay, so we'd love to have you guys take a moment again on the chat, and we really want to hear from you. Like, what are some of the challenges that you deal with during the holidays when it comes to getting together in those group settings, and what are the challenges? What makes it hard for you to stick to your healthy habits during the holidays? Go ahead and take a moment, just write in the chat. I know for me, it's all the desserts because I have a little bit of a sweet tooth.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing.
Yes.
Donuts, holiday candy. Yep. All the goodies that everyone else is eating. Yeah. Not overeating with all of the great food, especially foods that we're not seeing all year long. That's tricky. Sugar and carb cravings, absolutely. Leftovers. Oh, love leftovers.
Oh yeah, leftovers are the best. But also sometimes we end up with plates and plates and plates of leftovers, right? So knowing what to do with all those. I am guilty of having a hard time throwing food away, so that's one thing that I struggle with. I don't know if it's just having grandparents and parents who grew up in the Depression or what, but throwing those leftovers away sometimes can be difficult.
So I'm gonna go to challenges. Yeah,
so along with some of those sugary drinks, baked goods, all those things that we've talked about, stress is a big one. Stress when it comes to the holidays, and we'll kind of go into deeper dive into stress, but just some people get social anxiety being in those big groups. Sometimes there's family dynamics that just make it difficult. Sometimes just the stress of what to wear, or what to bring, or who am I going to see, or all the things tend to help. We tend to overeat or snack and stress eat. So, of course, alcohol is another one of those things that are at a lot of the parties that we show up at, where we're drinking our calories. Unpredictable weather that's under stress too kind of adds to the stress. Any expectations of work parties or where we show up, family dynamics, and then, of course, depression. We're enter into winter where a lot of us suffer from seasonal depression, and so that can lead to snacking and overeating as well. Okay, so from I want you to go ahead and add in the chat here now too. What are some things that, some healthy habits that result from all of these challenges that we just discussed? What are some of these habits that develop as we overeat, as we have stress in our life? What are these habits that are formed? Any ideas? What habits are you struggling with maybe the most when it comes to food for comfort? Yes, huge one, right? I think that's probably the biggest one for me during the holidays. Sharon mentions not eating healthy, binging. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we'll get in front of a football game or the turkey trot or whatever, and we're unconsciously putting things in our mouth because we're talking to people, we're nervous, and we're not being very present, right? So yeah, kind of some of that binge eating, or maybe we're starving ourselves for the big meal, and then we get there and we're just ravenous, and right. So some other things, of course, emotional eating. We talked a little bit about overeating, mindless snacking, going to bed too late, increased alcohol consumption, and decreased physical activity. So these are all kind of those habits that develop as we're going along here. Corrine says time off equals more snacking. Yes, it does. The more time we have on our hands to kind of just relax, usually, yeah, the more time we're going to be snacking. So absolutely. And then the final question I want you to write in there. So how do these unhealthy habits make you feel? When you do these habits of overeating, over snacking, overindulging, over drinking, how do you feel afterwards? Go ahead and write in the chat. Guilty, absolutely. That guilt can come on strong. Tired and guilty, yeah. I mean, especially when you're full of a bunch of sugar, it makes you really tired, right? Sharon says frustrated with lack of control, sluggish. Absolutely. Those are all things that we really can struggle with when we dive into these habits that are developed. So some other ones: lightheaded, unable to concentrate, irritable, moody, anxious, depressed. Fun times, right? Why we get so excited. Oh, someone said disappointed in self. Yes, that too. So Laurie's going to kind of dive into why is it that we feel this way? Because obviously there's some mental aspects to this, but there's actually some physiological things that really come about with why what we do with the overeating or the types of food they're eating, why we feel this way. So turn it over to Laurie.
All right. So there are always multiple different causes, but we're going to focus on one big one for a lot of reasons. I think it's just a good one to hit on for lots of reasons. So, and it has to do with hormones, of course. So one possible reason are hormonal imbalances. The types of food that you eat may affect your hormones. Dysregulated hormones or hormones that are not in balance, they lead to symptoms. All the symptoms that you guys were just saying: frustrated, sluggish, and then because you're not feeling well, you might be disappointed. I mean, there's so many things there. So if you have not ever heard of the carbohydrate roller coaster, you are in for a healthy treat because we're going to be talking about it. The carbohydrate roller coaster has a lot to do with carbohydrates. As you see this graph, it's showing, or this chart looks at blood glucose over time. So 3 different macronutrients that foods are broken down into are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. carbohydrates spike that blood glucose really quickly, as you can see on this graph, whereas protein and then fat, it's a more mild curve, and then fat is almost kind of negligible there at the bottom. So when we eat foods that are high in carbohydrates or processed, it creates that carbohydrate spike. And with this surge of glucose, our pancreas actually sends out insulin. And that insulin, this is the hormone that we're going to be talking about, because insulin has a lot of different jobs, but a big one is pulling that glucose from the blood into the cells to be used as energy. So this is good. This is how the system is supposed to work. But there are problems that happen when we're constantly spiking our glucose, and then we're also constantly spiking our insulin. Our insulin levels are getting higher and higher. So just reiterating that carbohydrates spike that blood glucose and causes a couple problems. So number one, high levels of blood glucose cause inflammation and damage to the inner lining of our blood vessels. That's not a problem unless it's high for a long amount of time. And along with that, so we get this glucose spike, and then we get this insulin spike after. But what can happen is that the glucose actually then goes down, goes lower than where we want. And that's what we call hypoglycemia. I see a lot of patients that say, oh, I have problems with hypoglycemia or low glucose in the blood. But what I think we fail to recognize is that there's a reason why that's being driven down, and that's because of this insulin spike that came because of the glucose spike, because of that carbohydrate that we ate. So tying it back to where it all started, I think is so important, and I don't know if we talk about that enough. So this hypoglycemia, when that glucose is down, that's where we're getting fatigue, we're getting dizzy, irritable, and these are just symptoms that we can experience daily, let alone during the holidays when we have all these carbohydrates plentiful around us, and it makes it really difficult. But on top of the stress that we experience at the holidays, these symptoms don't make it any easier. So we'll talk about how to avoid some of these in just a moment. But in light of it being National Diabetes Awareness Month, I think it's also important to talk about the fact that this reactive hypoglycemia is, is that to me? You guys are having a hard time hearing me? It might not be loud enough.
Just every once in a while you kind of go in and out. So just, I think if you lean forward and stay forward, they can hear you better.
Here's my face. So in light of November being National Diabetes Month, it's important to note that this has long-term effects as well. So when our insulin levels are high for years, that leads to a decrease in insulin sensitivity, which is also known as insulin resistance. It's also important to note that there's insulin resistance has a range. Diabetes type 2 is at the far end of that. So diabetes is insulin resistance, which is why it's so important to just, stop this in its tracks from ever even getting to that point. So this is important stuff. And what's wonderful is if we know what's causing it, we know how to reverse it. We know how to go in the other direction. So this graph, it's looking at the blood glucose levels that are then falling. Yes, correct. So I just want to note, someone said this doesn't apply to type 1 diabetes. That's correct. Type 2 diabetes is caused by insulin resistance, which is too high levels of insulin. Type 1 diabetes is actually where the pancreas is not producing insulin. So that is, yes, that's a great point. This chart looks at the carbohydrate roller coaster. That's exactly what it is, as opposed to the green section, which you see this nice curve. It's not spiking anything. And this is where we're getting those whole food veggies and fruits that are low carbohydrate, healthy proteins, healthy fats. And then this is just another depiction of the same two graphs, but overlapping. And you can just see how how different those two are, and how the peaks are much different than just this nice curve, which is what we're looking for to minimize these symptoms that we don't want to have on any day, let alone the holidays. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Natalie.
Okay. So part of when this comes, when you hear transformational nutrition coach, you're probably thinking, what is that exactly involve? So when we talk about nutrition and how to eat, often we're very concerned with the types of foods and how to nourish our bodies. But there's also other components that comes with taking our mind, our heart, our spirit, kind of the whole picture when it comes to whether it's weight loss or nutrition. And so when it comes to our mindset aspect of this, it's really important to kind of shift our thinking instead of thinking, gosh, there's so many things that I just can't eat, during the holidays or even, not during the holidays when I'm trying to eat healthy, but I can't have this, 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 and this, right? But if we can actually shift to thinking saying to ourselves, I have multiple opportunities daily to eat foods that serve me. And so when you think of it in that terms, is this what I'm putting into my mouth? Is it serving me or is it not? Sometimes that piece of chocolate is serving you, right?
Yep.
Or whatever. And that's great. We want that to be part of, food is part of the pleasure of life. But it's making those the majority of our decisions healthy ones, right? So some things that we can do now, obviously, we want to increase what we're doing. We want more healthy fat in our diet, and we want more protein in our diet. Again, we want to increase also low carbohydrate vegetables and fruit. So, if you were to ever Google foods that are on the high glycemic scale or on the low glycemic, and then there's a lot of hidden sugars in our food these days, including fruit juice, breads, pastas, potatoes, even, anything that ends with an ose on the end, sucrose, anything, those are dextrose, those are all hidden sugars that are in our foods. So kind of something to keep in mind there. But if we can have that mind shift, that's really going to help us. Some other daily hacks that we can do even before we get to the holiday season, you can just start doing today. Staying hydrated, I think, is probably one of the most important things. Most of us are chronically dehydrated. In fact, we should be drinking about half our body weight in ounces. So if you can imagine, let's say you're 160 pounds, divide that by 80 should be how many ounces that you're drinking a day. So, I'll have my big 40-ounce water. I know I'm supposed to drink 2 of those a day. And so that's a great way just to keep track of that. But also when you start increasing your water intake, you may find that it's just going right through you. And so oftentimes you just need to add some electrolytes to your drink. So electrolytes are things like sodium, potassium, magnesium that kind of helps hold that water inside. So sometimes you can just add a pinch of Himalayan salt to your water, and lemon juice. And, there's at the Karlfeldt Center, we sell these superior electrolytes that have a little sweetened with a little bit of stevia if you need, some flavor to kind of help get your water in during the day. But those are great little tips with just daily, and it keeps you full. Sometimes when we're having cravings, we may think we're hungry, but we probably are just thirsty. And so if you can just remember to take some drinks when you're having those cravings, that can really be helpful. And then really drink the majority of your water in between meals. So oftentimes if we have too much liquid with our meals, especially big holiday meals, it's really hard. It waters down the acids in our stomach and really makes it hard for our bodies to digest those meals. So try and drink. I know when I first wake up, I drink a lot of my water in the morning, and then I'll drink just in between meals throughout the day. And then another huge one is prioritizing sleep. And I know that can be hard with some of the stress that comes with the holidays, just getting things ready, for guests and all that. But when we can actually have good sleep hygiene, meaning, You know, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, you know, turning off screens before bed. You know, there's multiple things that can really help with. I've struggled with sleep most of my life. And so I've really had to stick to a schedule to really maintain that, because what happens is when we lose sleep and we don't get enough sleep, we get decreased ghrelin levels, which is a hormone in our body, that increases the appetite. And so if we're not getting enough sleep, then we're way more hungry the next day on those days that we don't get sleep. So, you know, this, if we get sleep, we have more energy. Our tolerance to stress is so much better. And then we have less cravings. Then a few more daily hacks. If we can just even move more, right? So it's getting colder, but even if you can go out for a walk, just bundle up for 15 to 20 minutes, after, especially after a meal, that just helps work off any of that extra sugar that's bouncing around in our blood. And then even if it's just turning some music on and dancing around for 50 minutes, walking around your house, right? Whatever it takes to just get moving is going to be huge. And even setting a timer. Let's say you work at home or you work at a desk, set a timer so that you to remind yourself to get up and walk and move and take those breaks. Skipping high carb snacks. So this is also a big one. The main reason why we snack is usually because we're not eating enough in our meals. You know, whether you have 3 meals a day, whether you intermittent fast and do 2 big meals, usually we're not getting enough during those meals. And so then we're hungry later, or we're not eating the right types of foods during those meals, right? And then we've burned everything off and we're hungry again. So a real big key is to make sure that you're skipping those high carb snacks that are burn off quick and you're hungry real soon later. Of anything sugary, you know, pies, cookies, candies in between, those are really going to, again, spike our blood sugar right back up there. Obviously, if you do need a snack and you didn't get enough at your meal, anytime you can combine a carb with like a fiber or protein or a good fat, that's going to be helpful to keep that blood sugar from spiking up too much. And then, of course, just prioritizing nutrition, really focusing on those healthy fats like, you know, avocados and coconut oils and lean proteins, low carbohydrate vegetables and fruits. You know, we could have an orange and we could have you know, some berries. Berries don't spike your insulin as much as like an orange does. So just being mindful of some of those things can be helpful. And then Laurie is going to share a little hack that she does with her MCT oil.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what MCT oil is, it's medium chain triglycerides. It comes from coconut oil, but because they're smaller chains than a lot of the fats that we get through our food, they're able to be digested and absorbed quite faster. And so it breaks down into these free fatty acids, and that becomes just like almost immediate, or, you know, within a few minutes, energy for our brain, along with our other tissues. So a lot of people like to put this in their coffee, hot drinks. Some people, I tried putting it in tea when I first started, and then I just made it oily tea. So I would suggest not doing that. But playing around with it, just an example, I put it in a little dropper, and I usually wake up hungry at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I take a little dropper and I just take some MCT oil, and then I drink some electrolytes and water, and then I'm actually not hungry for another 2 hours. So that allows me to not eat breakfast, you know, not to break my fast right away in the morning. It tides me over for another few hours, and then I can eat and start my day. A lot of people use this with intermittent fasting as well, but it's kind of fun to play around with if you never have. I will say though, you want to start small, because whatever you don't absorb, then your friendly gut bacteria will certainly take and give you some nice gastrointestinal upset. So that's something fun to play around with. We'll be attaching a document on the chat when we're done with this presentation that kind of gives some more outlines or guidelines on, how to kind of start using MCT oil if you're curious. So.
Okay. All right, so we're going to dive into the actual hacks you can do during the holidays for those, whether it's, we've got Thanksgiving around the corner and any of the holiday parties that are coming up here. So we're going to kind of cover what to do before the meal, during the meal, and then what you can do after the meal. So first of all, before the meal, again, you don't want to go to your holiday meal starving. Okay. Some people, I remember thinking, as I was younger, I'm just not going to eat all day and then I'm going to show up so I can eat whatever I want, right? So the problem with this is you end up overeating when you get there because you're just starving. So, eat your regular healthy meals throughout the day so that you're getting the nutrients that you need. And show up with, maybe even have a little snack before you go that's really healthy. Maybe that'll help you feel a little bit more full before you even go to your meal. So a good healthy protein like meat and cheeses, shrimps, veggies, those are the things, whether you eat it before you go or whether you looking for appetizers, go to the meat and cheese tray first, go to the veggies, fill up on those things first that are going to sustain you and not spike your blood sugar. And then, this goes along with just the stress aspect of it. This next one, when we talk about setting personal boundaries if concerned with family interactions. So, this is part of that mindset part of it. So, if you know that you have social anxiety, or if you're nervous to see certain family members, or if there's interrelations there that aren't so great, really, really set those boundaries beforehand. What am I willing to put up with, in this situation, and what am I not? When am I going to, walk away and be mindful of my own emotions and stress during that time. So really, really good little tips that you can do before you show up. And then during the holiday meal, really focus on eating your calories instead of drinking them, right? Most of us, what's the first thing we do? We show up, I don't drink alcohol, but, alcohol is full of sugar. And even just a lot of the punches and fizzy drinks, they're exciting. But even if you can just come drink, bring your own favorite seltzer water, or your own, flavoring with stevia that can kind of, pump it up. Or, if you are going to have a drink and enjoy it, just have a small serving of it. And, then that way you're getting more of your calories from your meal. So when we talk about portions on your plate, this is a great tip just to think about when you look at your plate, and you're dishing up your food. Think of half of your plate you want to put most of your salads, veggies, fruits. So most of your vegetables and fruits you want to take up about half of your plate. So all that good fiber that our body needs. Then think about a quarter of your plate to maybe be that good protein, your turkey. And then the other quarter of your plate is going to be your carbs. So, your mashed potatoes, your sweet potatoes, whatever it is. And, when it comes, obviously there's going to be better choices than others, but sometimes there may not be. And so sometimes you can just bring your own side that is a healthier version. Or, if you're making good decisions throughout the week, enjoy those mashed potatoes, enjoy some of your favorite dishes, but just be mindful of the portion size, so like a serving size for mashed potatoes is about a half of a cup. And so, but most of us don't put a half a cup of mashed potatoes on our plate, right? So just be a little bit more mindful about kind of how your plate looks. Another tip is chewing, and be conscious about your chewing. 20 to 30 times is what we should be doing to masticate our food. And so I've done this before, and I made my kids all do it. And I was realizing I was not chewing enough. Most of us are just either we're nervous or we're hungry and we're just kind of stuffing it down, right? But if you can be really present in the moment, present with, really soak in the taste and enjoy it, and do that. Try a few times to practice chewing, and you'll be blown away with how little we actually chew our food. And then eating to satiety. So that just means, really be conscious, and that feeling of fullness. Sometimes our brain doesn't always kick in time, especially if we're eating fast. And so we get that, in Italy, they call it pasta shock, when you eat too much pasta and then 10 minutes later you're rolling and holding your stomach on the floor because that pasta has expanded in your stomach. But so really note when you start to feel full, because you may feel even more full later. So kind of that's a good thing just to kind of get really familiar with of what full means to you. And then again, bring a take-home container. Bring, if you feel like you put too much on your plate, or there's more that you want to eat, portion it out, take it home, and enjoy it the next day, because that's the best part of leftovers, is enjoying it the next day. So the goal here is just enjoy your food, right? Enjoy your company, enjoy your food, but just be mindful of those little things. And when it comes to desserts, I don't know about you, but I like to have a little taste of everything, or at least the things that I really like. I like variety is the spice of life, right? So instead of maybe having just one big serving, or one, good sized serving of dessert, then maybe it's just a few small bites of some others, So just be mindful again of kind of that half a cup portion. And like I say, enjoy it. And if you still want more, the big question to ask yourself is, am I really hungry, or is there something else that I'm craving? And so again, it's just really thinking, internalizing, okay, what do I really want right now? Do I just need comfort? Do I feel like I need more love and affection? And so that's why I'm stress eating, for stress relief, or maybe we just need more excitement and adventure in our life. So it's really just prioritizing ourselves, really digging into self-care and providing those things for ourselves that we need, so that we don't need to feel like we have to use food for our comfort. Okay, and then after the holiday meal, again, just a quick 15-20 minute walk can be so helpful. Take that friend or that family member that you haven't talked to for a while, and go on a quick walk. It just really helps with getting the juices flowing, and digestive juices flowing, keeps that blood sugar nice and stable. And then sometimes even just having a digestive supplement, there's certain enzymes that you want to take before the meal, but others, like betaine, hydrochloride, and things you want to take after the meal, because it just helps with, really digesting those proteins and fats. And really just take the time to enjoy that time with friends and family. When we are stressed, or we're getting into conversations that are stressed after a meal, it really decreases our digestion, and our body and our stomach just does not produce as much stomach acid. So really take that time to enjoy yourself, enjoy the conversation, and remember to take your leftovers with you, because I don't know about you, but every time I leave a restaurant, they package up my leftovers and I leave them on the table. So don't forget those leftovers.
All right. And then this is just one last hack that we want to share. So consider simplifying. Some people absolutely love, getting gifts, and it fills their cup. But for so many of us, it just adds to the stress. And then, sometimes that can almost take first place when it comes to our priorities for the holidays. So just wanted to throw this in here, not associated to food, but certainly to stress. Give yourself the grace and space to be able to say no to expectations that don't serve you, just like you can say no to foods that don't serve you. So maybe making a gift something different. And also another big one is you can say no to keeping gifts that you do not want or need, because that gift can certainly go to someone else. So just two things here, so many expectations during this time. Am I going to hurt someone's feelings if I do this or I don't do this? It's tricky, but putting yourself first, and that's just really important. Again, creating space in your holiday, because we want to remember this. We don't want to be stressed out, all of November and December, and then it's over. The whole point is to spend this time with people. So creating space to be together. Other ideas for gifts, if you are interested in maybe decreasing the physical gifts that we're buying and sharing with people, going on adventures, volunteering together, and then even starting a new hobby. But there's so many things that we can do during this time, and a gift is not necessarily a physical object. So quality over quantity, usually the most simple things are the deepest. So reminder that oftentimes less is more.
All right. So those are kind of some of our tips and tricks. We just wanted to give you guys an idea how we can help you during this holiday season, or even as we approach the new year and have some holiday and some New Year's goals. So at the Karlfeldt Center, we have a metabolic weight loss program. And so Laurie is kind of the medical oversight over it. So she will get online and go over your health history, talk about possible labs that you may need to order, that so to just give you some insight into maybe what's going on with your metabolic health and how to help you really lose the weight that you're wanting to. And then there's transformation nutrition coaching with me, maybe even some heart math in there to help with stress management when it comes to the holidays. And so we really just sit down and kind of dive in with you with, starting off with a good purification to kind of cleanse your body, to help kickstart your weight loss. And then we develop a program that's specifically designed for you. So there's kind of certain phases that happen. Kind of phase one, get the labs, go through the purification. Phase two is a more personalized approach, because everybody loses weight differently and it has different challenges. And so we really want to design something that you'll stick to, so you can make those daily changes. And then we're hoping to get a group coaching program put together at the beginning of the year. And so we would love to hear from you what some of those challenges are that you would love to have help with in the group coaching aspect of it. If you can take a moment just to write some things in the chat, we will be able to answer some of your questions here at the end. And so we'll be able to talk to some of you also after. So if you want to come on and talk with your video, you can. But yes. Colonics also, if you are local in the area, that's also something that you can add on to your program. Just really helps get all those toxins out of your system so you can lose weight a lot more efficiently. And so the first step is just to schedule a consult with us. The number to call is on there at the Karlfeldt Center. And so they'll be able to help you and get you scheduled for a time where you can meet with one of us and really talk about what your personal goals are, your past challenges and wins, some of the options that we provide, and we'll go a little more in detail into that. And then you'll book your visits with Laurie and I to get you started on that. And then just wanted to give you guys a heads up on some of the Black Friday specials and promotions that we have. So we have, the Karlfeldt Center does a lot with regenerative medicine and regenerative health. And so, make sure that you're paying attention to any of the social media channels that we have, that you're signed up for our newsletter so you don't miss any of these amazing promotions. You can sign up just on our website. But I mean, we've got like free consults for the MSLA, which kind of helps with strengthening the pelvic wall, bladder control, and the Sculpt, which is really great for spot reduction, for supporting abs and bigger muscle groups and any women who have, just had pregnancies and have that separation of their abs. It's a great tool for that. So of course the Hocket, laser bed, detox foot bath, all these things, flow press are really great ways to up your metabolic health and to get rid of toxins and just strengthen your system overall. So most of these are for local. All right, so to end here, before we start on questions and answers, if you have your pen, if you've been taking notes, I want you to write down just one thing that you can change this holiday season so that you can have a healthy holiday. So we know that it's not a goal until it's written down. And so if you take just a moment just to write down one thing that we mentioned tonight that you can do to change and make some of those baby steps into enjoying and having a healthy holiday. So go ahead and write it down. If any of you want to share, you're welcome to share in the chat. Otherwise, go ahead and take a moment just to do that. And then really, I want you to think about just all the gifts that you're giving or receiving. Give yourself the gift of health. There's nothing, we only get one body, right, in this lifetime. And the more that we can feed our body, we are what we eat, we'll have more energy, more satiety, decreased hunger, decreased anxiety, irritability, and mood swings. All of these things can be affected by how we choose what we put into our mind, what we put into our hearts, what we put into our mouth. And so give yourself the gift and enjoy this holiday season. So we're going to open it up for the last 10 minutes that we have to any of you who are on. You're welcome to write questions in the chat, or you can come on whether you want your video on or not. But we'd love to hear from you if anyone has any questions.
We have a question about the purification program.
Okay. Standard Process has an incredible purification program that we use. And I know Debbie just mentioned in the chat, she says, quick before we go into that, Debbie actually went through our purification program and was very successful. But she said, is it better to combine carbs with fiber or fat? And so usually when carbs and fat are combined together, sometimes that's where you end up with storage of of those sugars and fats. So usually if you can combine it with a fiber or protein, you're a little bit better off. But yeah, depending on the fats. I don't know, Laurie, would you have anything else to add to that? Or
that's actually a really great question. I would have to say, like in the low carb, high fat nutrition realm, it's really where people get into issues is when they continue to eat sugar and increased fat, because fat in and of itself is not the problem. It is just it's at the scene of the crime, right, of atherosclerosis or other plaques in the inflammatory sites. So I would probably say if you're going to be eating these carbohydrates, fiber's helpful, but maybe not going overboard with fat. A good rule of thumb is filling with fat, not necessarily having it, as the mainstay. But definitely a good question, because when we eat those carbohydrates with fat, that is kind of the perfect storm of what causes these cardiovascular events and problems downstream. So I might go a little bit more with fiber, but also if you're having dessert on top of the meal that you just ate, it's not just carbohydrate and fat. So making sure that if you're going to eat a carbohydrate, I would probably eat the other macronutrients, I guess is my answer for that one.
Yeah, and Corrine asked, what are some low carb fruits and vegetables? So that's a great question. So just some examples. So like zucchini, cauliflower, radishes, tomatoes. Those are kind of some of the low carb vegetables. And so when we're this purification program, as Katrina asked, we're really focusing. You'll get a whole list of all the low glycemic fruits and vegetables, and even certain grains that can help you avoid those sugar spikes. Watermelon, for example, is a better fruit. Berries, cantaloupe, avocados, peaches. Some of those are going to be lower than, like you say, your really high sugar, like oranges and other things. So you'll get a list of things when you do the purification program that you choose from, and you'll see which ones are a little bit higher in sugar or not. Great question, though. It looks like Anne asks, she says, I weigh 112 pounds. How much daily protein intake would you recommend? So yeah, so usually, we plug it into a little equation. I think it's like 0.8 kilograms or something per body weight. I'd have to look it up. It depends. It's going to be a little different for everyone. It's going to be depending on how much muscle mass you have to maintain that muscle mass. Generally, we recommend anywhere between like 20 to 30 grams per meal. And if you ever count this, until you actually start counting it, you don't really realize how much I found I wasn't eating enough protein, but oftentimes the way you can tell is just, looking at the palm of your hand. So kind of like, and the thickness is a good size amount of like meat or protein or eggs, whatever you're going to have, or, the size of a deck of cards. That's usually enough protein for you. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind there.
I just wanted to say that I added to the chat a couple or a few different documents. One is a really awesome document on low carb foods made from the Diet Doctor online website. It's a wonderful reference. The MCT oil infographic, and then we made a document with those holiday hacks on it, just front and back if you wanted to print it out and take it with you to remember what your focus is for that night. And then the little infographic for the specials if you wanted to see that again.
I love Debbie's comment here. She said she went through the program, the phase 1 of the program, and she said, I found the purification program to be easy to follow as it came with all kinds of information with delicious recipes I still make. After doing it, I felt a lot more energized, started sleeping better, and just felt better overall. And this is what we hear over and over and over. When people are consciously choosing, good quality, nutrient-dense foods, there's a few supplements that you take with the purification program to help your body really detox and get rid of a lot of the stuff that's just hanging out in your liver and gut. And then it just really helps to kickstart your whole weight loss program. So, but we hear this over and over. People start sleeping better. They're losing, I've had people lose between 10 and 15 pounds in the first week. Of course, some of that's water and stuff that they're just getting rid of, toxins that they're getting rid of. But more importantly, it's just how people feel. They have more energy than they've ever had, and it's just so exciting to see people really feel the benefits of what it means to eat healthy and to live healthy.
What's interesting also sometimes is we don't realize how bad we actually feel until that like veil is lifted and it's like a memory from, it's like a dream,
Right.
how different it can feel. And you don't realize that until that veil is lifted. So.
Absolutely. If there's any more questions, we're at our hour mark. So, if you have any more questions, go ahead and call us at the Karlfeldt Center and set up a discovery call. We'd love to hear from you personally to know what your personal concerns are and challenges, and really just kind of help you give a better idea of what you can do to start now. Any other questions before we head out? There's the Karlfeldt Center. And again, Laurie and I can meet virtually with you online, or we can meet at the Karlfeldt Center if you're local to the Boise area. So again, thanks so much for being with us tonight. It was great to hear from all of you. And we hope you all have a wonderful week and happy holidays this season.
Right.
Take care.